Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you go.
So this is your aunt.
Helen.
And Uncle Joe.
This one. Yeah, and that was your mom's.
No. This was
Your dad.
my father's sister.
Was Aunt Helen right
Aunt
here?
Helen.
Are you taking that?
Mm-hmm.
And Aunt Helen married Joe Wargo.
Joe Wargo.
Mm-hmm.
So Aunt Helen May
Had
married
a farm in
in
Puyallup
Puyallup.
on the river,
Mm-hmm.
and the Wargos had a farm on the river, and so May
Yeah.
married a Wargo.
Right. And then what about the Durises? How did they come into play?
I'm trying to figure that one out.
We had it down at one
I'm
time.
not clear if, I'm trying to figure out if a Duras girl is a May. I don't know.
Mm.
We'll have to figure that out. I can't
Or if it's a
remember.
Duras, or if she's a Wargo.
So
not-
what
I'm
was
not-
your father? Was your father a Wargo?
No, he was a May.
My father was a May. When I came to live with my grandma and grandpa Doherty after mother died,
Mm-hmm.
I did not know anything about Andy May because I thought that Tommy Ballard was my father.
Mm.
That is who my mother's second marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was out at sea on the Saratoga. When mother died, they do not send a sailor home because the mother dies.
Mm.
And so I was put on a train, I don't know by who, a neighbor, a friend, I don't know who put me on the train. But they took me to the train depot in San Diego and put the body of my mother in the casket on the train with me.
Mm.
And they gave me to a red cap. In those days, red caps were the black porter.
Mm-hmm.
And they called them red caps because their cap was red.
Because you were a young child at this time.
Hmm?
You were a young child at this time.
Well, I was about 7.
Mm-hmm.
And they told the porter to see me off in Tacoma. So the porter put me to bed, the porter took me to the dining room. The porter literally took care of me all the time I was on that train. When I got to Tacoma, Washington, he took me out to the side of the train. They brought mother's casket up beside me and walked me to my Aunt Marion, which was waiting at the depot in Tacoma.
Mm.
I went home to my Grandma Doherty, and she was lying on the Davenport, and I stepped up to Grandma, and I said, "My mother died. Tell me." No one had told me. And Grandma said, "Yes, your mother passed away."
Mm.
And then we both cried together.
Mm-hmm.
And then Aunt Helen and Uncle Joe came to see me, and this is when I didn't know at that time that there was Andy May existed.
Mm.
And they said, "This is your father." Well, I wouldn't accept that because Tommy Ballard was my father.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only person I wanted to see or love. I wanted nothing to do with Andy May. And my Aunt Marion wanted to adopt me,
Mm.
being that she was the sister of my mother. But she was not married yet, and so the courts would not give me to her.
Mm.
My father had precedence over that. They didn't ask me where I wanted to go, which was to stay with my grandma and grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
And the court said, "No, you're going to go with your father." Well, my father was married to another lady, and they were going to take me to Portland, Oregon. I'd just lost my mother. I didn't want to go any further than Grandma and Grandpa's.
Yeah.
So to make things easier, Aunt Helen and Uncle Joe, of course, brought Lois because I locked myself in my dollhouse and I would not come out.
Mm-hmm.
I was fighting all ends. But anyway, I finally got in the car and went to Portland, Oregon. Thank God I had a good stepmother, which turns out to be Dan's mother.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
What was her name?
And that was Alice. And my stepmother was a marvelous lady and loved me till the day she died. But my father, I see it now that I've gotten older, that he loved me and he cared. But he just didn't have the loving mannerisms. Andy May was strong-willed. I do believe he had problems. I think he was probably bipolar, as I see it, can look back on it now. And he didn't show the love, I don't remember my father ever saying that he loved me. I've never sat on his lap. It was, nothing. He was very rigid and very strong. And he always resented his own mother and father because they came from the old country and he thought that they should speak American, and they were too old for that.
What country?
Well, from Czechoslovakia. And but I grew to, I finally ran away from my father, and I hid in the church. Nobody could find me. And my best girlfriend, Colleen, that lived by my grandma and grandpa Doherty, she finally found me in the church. And in those days, the churches were not locked. And so I had gone in and hid in the church. And Grandpa took me home, and of course he said, Marilyn, I've got to take you back to your father. And I said, no, I will not go to my father. I said, I had my first job at a little grocery store across the street from Grandma and Grandpa. I was proud of that job. And I got 25 cents an hour. But my father had grabbed me by the wrists and threw me under the sink because I got a job. And to me, that wasn't fair. I had a job, he should be proud of me. And he wasn't.
How old were you?
And so, I was an 8th grader, I guess. No, I wasn't an 8th grader yet, I guess. So anyway, I told Grandpa I would not go home to my father. I refused. And Grandpa said, well, he'll come and get you. And he said, I want to keep you, Marilyn, but he said, the law is on his side. And I said, well, I'm not budging. I'm staying. So anyway, Grandpa sat up all night expecting Dad to come, but he never came. And so anyway, I graduated and I went to high school, and one morning I was going up the hill to go to Aquinas. My dad was coming down the hill. He crossed over and walked on the other side. And we never did speak. So it wasn't, I had my grandpa give me away at my wedding. I would not, I did not even want Andy May to come near me. And it wasn't until later in life, after I had children and realized that, that my father probably did care in his way. And I finally brought him back into my life, and we became good friends. And just about the time we became good friends, he died. So I always was happy that he left this world. We were on speaking terms and had come together. But now you can see from all this why I'm very strong on love. I'm very strong on forgiveness, and my husband James Fitzpatrick certainly brought it all home to me too.
It's a good note to maybe end on, right?